Hi folks, welcome back to Stacey Can Can. Today I am making a lemon sage wine mustard. Just sounds kind of lemony fresh and good, and heading into spring and summer, it just sounds delightful. It can be used year round as well, and this is kind of a simple fun thing to do that that have ingredients year round, so it's relatively easy to do. So what we need first is a one bunch of sage, and I just got it like so in a package in the produce section. You need let's see, a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of dry wine, and I just got these little cans. You can just do the self-serve, just because they're great for cooking wine self-serve. They're just kind of like individual serving here. I just chose to use this because I don't particularly care for too much dry white wine. So I'm using these. I'm more of a red girl, but so I'm using this, and they're a little bit cheaper to use too. And you will also need 3/4 of a cup of mustard seed. We need the zest and the juice of 2 large lemons. A half of cup of honey, and also 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So the tools that you're going to need, we're going to use our standard. I might be bubbling. I got to see, mustard's kind of weird getting it in a jar, so we'll double check, but I'll probably bubble a little bit with that. So chopstick, our lid lifter, a Headspace tool, our jar lifter, and a ladle. Also, we need our funnel. So these are those basic tools. The additional tools, this is kind of fun. I'm just going to be using my stock pot today. So I got a new little thing. Instead of using the jar rings to put in the bottom of it to raise it up, I have this fun little new gizmo, which these are kind of fun and cool. So it fits in the bottom of this stock pot nicely. You're also going to need a sieve to press the sage leaves through. You're going to, you need a zester of some sort, whatever works best for you. And I have a citrus squeezer, so if you can squeeze them by hand or use a citrus squeezer, whatever works best for you on that part. So also our lid, and a food processor, because we do need to whiz these about. You could probably use a blender if you want, or if you have an emulsifier, you could possibly use that as well. But this does give a better blend for that, using a food processor if you have one. So with that, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to finely chop some sage leaves, and I've got a pile here I'm putting together. We're going to finely chop to 1/3 of a cup. Check out these sage leaves. Aren't they pretty? I'm going to put them in a stack, because now we got to coarsely chop up to 1/2 of a cup. We have our fine chopped here, and we've got our coarsely chopped here. And we'll measure this out to 1/2 a cup. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 1/2 a cup of coarsely chopped sage and stems and mix it in with our 3/4 of a cup of white wine, dry white wine, and we're going to bring this up to a boil over medium-high heat until we get it to a boil. While it's boiling, as we bring it up to heat, go ahead and use your spoon and just kind of press on the sage leaves as you go, because we're going to be releasing some of that flavor. All right, you notice that we have a boil here, so we'll go ahead and cut the heat, and we're going to cover it and let this steep for 5 minutes. Timer has gone off, so I'm taking the lid off, and you'll notice the sage leaves here in the pot. So we're going to just pour these through the sieve here. So we've got the sage leaves here in the sieve. So you want to take your spoon and just kind of press it against the walls to extract as much of the juice, of the wine and juice as you possibly can. We're going to get all that flavor. And now we'll gently pour the wine sage infusion back into the pot here. And now we're going to pour the mustard seeds into the pot here. We'll give it a bit of a stir. And then we're going to cover this and let it stand for 2 hours so that the seeds can absorb all that moisture. The mustard seeds have finished soaking. We've soaked them for about 2 hours. Now we're going to place all of the seeds along with the juice inside of the food processor here. Also have our cup of white wine vinegar. I'm going to pour in here as well. It smells very good. I'm going to make sure I have this on tight. And then we're going to whiz it about in the processor, and just to making sure that it's creamed up, but also it's still grainy like mustard. All right, we got it nice and well chopped. Here's the consistency we're going for. You want the seeds well chopped, but also with a slightly grainy texture to it. So I think you can kind of play with the graininess here. If you like it a little bit grainier than others, then great. If you want to smooth it up, you could. And now we're going to transfer this to a stock pot here. Now we're going to add the lemon zest from the 2 lemons. I'm going to use the juice scraper. We're going to juice these 2 lemons. We'll add our honey, our 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and the 1/3 of a cup of finely chopped sage leaves there. Now we're going to go ahead and get this up to a boil, and you want to stir constantly while you're doing so. Now I've reduced the heat to kind of medium, so we're going to do a gentle boil for about 20 minutes to reduce this to 1/3 of what it is at the moment. And you want to stir frequently. Timer has gone off, and this is definitely reduced by 1/3. It's actually quite a bit thicker. So we are done here. And I've got my jars heating up in the stock pot. Remember, we're not putting in a hot item into a cold jar. And let's get our funnel in here. We are filling this to a 1/4 of an inch headspace. And I'm going to go ahead and bubble around. And we're going to use the lid water to clean the rim really good. Using our lid lifter to take out the lids. I'm heating them today. And then you just want to do a fingertip tighten. And then we lift it straight up like so, and then into the canner. Make sure to not tip it over to the side, and repeat. I got the jars in the canner here, and I'm putting the lid on like so, and we're going to crank the heat up, and once it comes to a rolling boil, we'll set the timer for 10 minutes. We've got a rolling boil going, so I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. The 10-minute timer has gone off for processing these jars, so I've cut the heat and I've set the timer for 5 minutes to let the jars sit and kind of rest in the hot water there. It helps with the sealing before we take them out of the stock pot. 5-minute timer has gone off, so we're going to go ahead and take the lid off here. The jars have rested. And then we'll take these out one at a time like so. Remember, we just bring them up and out. You don't need to tip them or tilt them. In fact, don't tip or tilt them because you can compromise the seal. It's very pretty in the jar. And that is lemon sage wine mustard. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I enjoyed canning with you again. Below is the recipe, and this is another tested recipe from Ball. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can like and subscribe my page below too as well. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, input, by all means, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at Stacey CAN CAN. You can at me on Instagram and TikTok at Stacey CAN CAN. My website is www.staceycancan.com, and my email is info@staceycancan.com. Thanks again for joining me today, and until next time, happy canning.